Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Basketball Conference, the ACC Football Podcast. My name is Joey Weaver. He is Mike McDaniel. And Mike, I've got one thing for you right here.
Oh, God.
Here is your winner and still the reigning Basketball Conference Podcast Real Tech champions, my Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Get it done again somehow Thursday night in Blacksburg. How much of a party was that for you, Mike?
I'm dead inside. I am dead inside, Joey. I'm dead inside. I'm sick of hearing about how imposing the Lane Stadium atmosphere is. Sick of Enter Sandman. I'm sick of all the garbage that national media latches onto week after week after week. And I have to instead watch my football program. I'm calling it my football program. I'm taking ownership of it now. I need to watch it every single week, go into a primetime matchup, God. I have to watch it every other week. They seem to be on national TV at night, and every week they fucking lose. They find a way to lose, and I dropped an F-bomb. I'm sorry for those at home. I'm really, really angry about this, Joey. I'm so sick of this. Like, every time they enter a primetime matchup, they find a way to lose. I'm so tired of it. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. They always lose. You could talk about the youth on defense. We'll get into this game like with actual detail in a minute, but I can't even put coherent thoughts together. We put a defense on the field that's extremely young. Totally get it. It's an offense they've never seen before. Totally get it. But you know what you can't blame on youth? You can't blame trends on youth, Joey. Year one, under Justin Fuente, you give them a little bit of a pass because it's the first year. They go to the ACC championship game, but they find a way to lose to Georgia Tech at home. They lose to Syracuse in the Carrier Dome. They lose to Tennessee after fumbling 5 times. That's year one under Justin Fuente. Last year, Virginia Tech finds a way to lose to Georgia Tech. They find a way to lose. Like, games they should win, right? They always seem to find a way to blow it. You go to this year, they lose to Old Dominion. They lose to a mediocre Georgia Tech team, one of the worst Georgia Tech teams I've seen in the last few years. Find a way to lose that game. And not only lose that game, they get blown out, Joey. Absolutely blown out of the stadium. I don't understand it. And this seems to always happen with Justin Fuente coach teams. Like, it needs to stop. I'm sick of blaming this thing on youth.
This rant brought to you by the Virginia Tech Hokies. Mike, let's start there. Georgia Tech 49, Virginia Tech 28. That was on Thursday night. That was something that we kind of talked about a couple of weeks ago. It was about Justin Fuente, and it seemed like it was this great fit, and they had a pretty good first season and all this stuff. But kind of as you sit there and start to look at it, we're coming towards the end of year 3. How much is this working out, and what do we or should we expect, coming out of the Frank Beamer era at Virginia Tech and what he did there and all this stuff? And this is another one of those that it feels like Virginia Tech had a pretty big opportunity and badly blew it. I mean, Georgia Tech in this game snaps the ball 79 times, throws 1 pass, runs for 465 yards and 7 touchdowns. Absolutely just – I mean, it was probably about impossible to sit in the stands and watch this game, especially in the second half, as Georgia Tech just ground out this running game. Basically literally ran the same like 5 or 6 plays for almost all of the 78 rushing plays, whatever they had. I mean, this is as frustrating and disappointing a loss. I've never seen a Bud Foster defense so just easily had by such simple means. I mean, I texted you, Mike, Thursday night, and it was like, this is the Georgia Tech team that I thought was going to win 8 or 9 games. I mean, the offensive line is now healthy. The defense is getting better. In this game, they finally didn't shoot themselves in the foot. And yet, considering all of that, I'm still pretty disappointed from what we got from Virginia Tech on the defensive side of the ball. And it's weird to me that Paul Johnson has so much success against the same defensive coaching staff since Justin Fuente got there as he did, as compared to that staff before he got there. And I'm struggling to make sense of it all.
Yeah, so now that I had my angry, unprepared rant where I stumbled for, I don't know, about a minute and a half, let me try to put some coherent thoughts together about this game. Virginia Tech's defense was atrocious. They were getting blown off the line of scrimmage. Ricky Walker, terrible game. Jared Hewitt got hurt, which wasn't good. The linebacking core, led by Dax Hollifield, did not look very good. The secondary hasn't tackled all year, and they were not going to tackle in this game as predicted. What I really didn't understand is that there were no adjustments made by Bud Foster at all. And this isn't anything new if you're a Virginia Tech fan. For as many accolades and as much praise as Bud Foster gets, this has been the Achilles heel in the past when Virginia Tech's defense hasn't necessarily performed up to standard. It's that, okay, well, what they went into the game with and with their game plan isn't working. Now what do? I'll tell you what they don't do. They don't make adjustments on the fly very well. That is troubling to me. Virginia Tech's linebackers and the secondary, say you had a 2nd and 4 situation, 3rd and 5, you have a medium yardage situation. You have your linebackers and your safeties playing off the line of scrimmage behind the sticks, 6, 7, 8 yards. So when your defensive line gets blown off the ball, your second line of defense is beyond the first down marker. So Georgia Tech is routinely picking up 5, 6, 7 yards, converting 3rd and medium, converting 3rd and long, which has been a problem for Virginia Tech's defense all year. It's just more amplified against an option offense when you can see them running, 2, 3, 4 plays to either side of the field, and you're seeing it repeatedly over and over and over again. And there are no adjustments made. You would think that Virginia Tech's linebacking core would play a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage so that when the defensive line gets blown off the ball, you're a little bit closer to the point of attack. You just didn't see any of that in this game. And they were perfectly content with getting blown off the ball, having running backs and Tobias Oliver, a quarterback, getting to the second level repeatedly. It was just like the game 2 years ago, Joey, when Matthew Jordan was playing quarterback. Comes in, Justin Thomas gets hurt, your starting center's out. Virginia Tech comes into the game heavily favored, much more heavily favored than they were in this game, Joey. This was much more of a toss-up. But they were more heavily favored 2 years ago. But it was a very similar type of game to watch from the stands. It was, okay, Georgia Tech's running 3 or 4 plays. They seem to be working. They're coming at you time and time and time again, and you're not making any adjustments. And Virginia Tech's defense, that was a veteran-laden group 2 years ago, Joey. That was a group that was much like the group last year that, those juniors turned to seniors, and all those guys are now in the NFL. So I'm not going to blame this game on youth. It seems really easy narrative, like a really easy narrative to portray, and a lot of people have been doing that. Oh, they're young, they'll get better. That's fine. But this has been a trend. This has happened time and time again. Not all of Virginia Tech's defenses have been young now, yet they find a way year after year to lose games that they probably should have won on paper. They always find a way to lose 1 or 2 games a year, and that's why Virginia Tech is an 8-4 to 9-3 program. Anybody who thinks anything different in the Virginia Tech fan base, completely and totally delusional. We go into the year, Joey, we talked about this with Virginia Tech when we did our season preview. We said this is a 8-4, 9-3, 10-2 type program if things fall a certain way. But what we did was we chalked up 3 losses right off the bat. We said they'd lose to Florida State, they'd lose to Miami, and they'd lose to Notre Dame. That's what we said at the outset of the year. Turns out they beat Florida State, but they found a way to lose to Old Dominion. They've now found a way to lose to Georgia Tech. They've lost to Notre Dame, and they have Miami in a few weeks, and we'll see what happens there. Miami's a mess right now. But we chalked up 1 or 2 losses for Virginia Tech that we, didn't expect them necessarily to lose on paper, but we knew on the field they'd find a way to lose. And why do we do that? It's because they find a way to do this year after year after year. I'm tired of blaming youth. You can blame the freshmen and sophomores all you want, but hey, look, we're moving into the month of November, and this defense hasn't improved over the course of the year. They've gotten a lot worse. That's troubling to me because these guys are the guys you're going to ride with now. Next year, into year 4 under Justin Fuente, I don't know. That's something that's pretty concerning for me. History tells you that these guys should get better, and Virginia Tech's defense should return to form down the road. But hey, the last year of Frank Beamer, Virginia Tech had a really young defense, but they weren't as bad as this defense is. This defense is absolutely atrocious. And look, Virginia Tech's coaching staff should be absolutely embarrassed by what happened on Thursday night.
Yeah, we talked about this is looking like statistically it's going to be pretty clearly the worst defense that Virginia Tech has had in over a decade. You were talking about some weird scheme stuff Virginia Tech was doing defensively, Mike. And one of the things I distinctly remember a moment, I can't remember if it was 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, where Georgia Tech lines up, they're going to go for it. And Virginia Tech not only doesn't really stack the box any more than they had on any other play, they lined up a defensive tackle like a yard off of the line of scrimmage. I mean, it was a weird, in one of these in short, situations, you're expecting to run up, between the tackles, And that was exactly what Georgia Tech did, except Parker Braun, the left guard, got a running start at the defensive tackle because he was lined up so far off the line. It was really strange. A lot of very odd stuff, Mike. One of the ways that this game was oddly reminiscent in a lot of ways of the game 2 years ago that Georgia Tech won in Blacksburg. One of the ways was that, by the way, Taquan Marshall didn't start this game for Georgia Tech. He didn't play in this game for Georgia Tech. That went to Tobias Oliver. So basically the third string guy back in the spring, who became the second string guy when Lucas Johnson goes out with an injury. He's had some success running the ball recently. He's kind of had a simplified version of the offense, but he's a little bit bigger and comfortable running in traffic and this kind of thing, I think. He gets the start. Taquan Marshall is allegedly available, but not 100%. He had some sort of upper body injury that he was still nursing from a couple of weeks ago. Tobias Oliver now might have his own version of soreness or whatever. He goes 40 carries, Mike, for 215 yards, 3 touchdowns. Jordan Mason joins him with 82 yards and 3 touchdowns of his own. This was in one of the biggest oddities of this. So, again, Georgia Tech finishes with 465 yards on the ground. Their longest carry went for 16 yards. 16 yards. That's the longest carry that they had in this game. And so it was just one of those just grinded out kind of efforts. Georgia Tech had a game plan. They stuck to it. This game looked like it was going to be a shootout for a little bit. It went back and forth quite a bit in the first half. There was a punt that Georgia Tech punted the ball, I believe, on a second or third drive here, and it goes off the face mask of a Virginia Tech returner who had not returned a punt all year, and we're starting to understand why.
Yep.
Just a lot of oddities in this game, Mike, and it was close, and it was kind of looking shootout-y there for a while into halftime, and then in the second half, Georgia Tech's defense gets a couple of stops and has a couple of really long drives, and next thing you know, the game was over. I mean, people were leaving Lane Stadium early in the fourth quarter. I believe it was
myself included, by the way.
Yeah, they Georgia Tech. I tweeted this out. Georgia Tech crossed 30 minutes time of possession in the third quarter. They ended up holding the ball for 42 minutes of this game. Just totally took the air out of the entire stadium. I mean, this was it really completely got away from Virginia Tech after a little while. And Mike, last thing I've got, you made the point Thursday night as well. Virginia Tech having a tough time defending the run here and has had some problems this year. Well, if you thought Georgia Tech's run game was hard to defend, you got Boston College coming in next week.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So good luck with that, because A.J. Dillon and them boys just did a number on Miami, and we'll come back to that here in just a minute. But overall, just a weird game, and Georgia Tech moves to 3-0 against Virginia Tech under Justin Fuente.
Yeah, we'll get into this in the preview for Week 10. So I'll reserve a lot of my thoughts on the Virginia Tech Boston College game for that, obviously. But I'm already starting to see on Twitter, well, Boston College runs a more simplified scheme and doesn't pose as many problems. Look, there was nothing about the scheme of Georgia Tech that was like extremely troubling for Virginia Tech scheme-wise. It was you were just getting blown off the ball. And that's not going to change against a bigger, more imposing offensive line next week. Mm-hmm. This is not scheme related at all. This is you got out physical to the line of scrimmage. That's my take on it from watching it from the stands, rewatching it on TV the last couple days. This isn't a situation where, oh, it was Georgia Tech's complicated scheme that got Virginia Tech, and that's why they couldn't make tackles in the open field, or their defensive line just got absolutely mauled at the line of scrimmage. Boston College's offensive line's better, by the way, and they have a better running back in the backfield in A.J. Dillon than most teams have across the country. Forget the ACC. And he's coming to Blacksburg next week. And that could pose a problem for Virginia Tech. One other thing I'm also seeing on social media is, oh, well, if we get Virginia Tech's version of Scott Loeffler instead of BC's, we've made jokes about this on this podcast numerous times. If we get Virginia Tech's version of Scott Loeffler versus Boston College's version of Scott Loeffler, the Hokies will win this football game. I completely disagree, because the Hokies can't defend the pass either, by the way. So if Boston College decides to get pass happy with Anthony Brown, that might not matter, because Virginia Tech secondary can't cover anybody right now. So I'll reserve the rest of my thoughts on the BC game for later in the week when we preview it, but I have some concerns about Virginia Tech's defense, even more so than I did coming into this weekend, Joey, against Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech 49, Virginia Tech 28. Let's move on, Mike. We got a lot of ground to cover here. Number 2, Clemson 59, Florida State 10. Goodness, this is the worst loss Florida State's ever had at home. It looks like it's going to be close for about a quarter, and then Clemson hits the gas and absolutely boat races Florida State through a lot of this game, Mike.
Trevor Lawrence seems like he might be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. My preseason conference player of the year, Travis Etienne, only had 45 yards rushing, Joey. And they still scored 59 points.
Is that good?
So Florida State, how's that offensive line holding up?
Florida State ends this game with 21 yards rushing. Ooh. In the other direction.
Whoops.
Minus 21 yards, including minus 16 from DeAndre Francois and minus 25 from the team on a couple of weird snaps over the head and that kind of thing. So
and they're dead, Joey.
Yeah. This is Florida State is who we thought they were, Mike, to channel my inner Denny Erickson. Yes. They are who we thought they were.
Yes. Yeah. Do you have anything else on this? Clemson seems pretty good.
They are in absolute war machine mode, Mike. That is there is no two ways about it. Clemson, by the way, Christian Wilkins had a rushing touchdown in this game. I don't know if you saw that.
I did. I did.
Yeah.
Heisman Trophy candidate for sure.
Absolutely. Started seeing he was a little bit feeling left out and wanted to show that anything you can do, I can do better, Travis Etienne. He just takes a handoff 1 yard and leaps over the pile and scores because nobody wants to get in the way of that.
Yep, and Christian Wilkins has wanted to play quarterback for a while, so he'll settle for running back.
Man, Clemson. So the end of the first quarter, this game is, it's scoreless. It's tied at 0. Clemson leads 28-0 at halftime, so they score 28 points unanswered in the second quarter. From there, Florida State manages a field goal 5 minutes left in the third quarter. By that point, they're down. What was it, 45-0? I mean, Clemson, once they woke up and kind of hit the gas, I mean, this thing got out of hand in a hurry. These teams are what we thought they were, and Clemson at this point, Mike, is very, very clearly the best team in the ACC.
I agree.
Big question now, who's the second best team? And we're going to have to try to figure that out as we go through here because I don't know, and it's very much up for debate, and I don't think anybody's really even in the neighborhood of where Clemson is at this point.
I agree, and this conference overall, I think, pretty much sucks this year. But I have one question for you, Joey.
Yes, sir.
Did Clemson cover?
Yeah, Clemson covered.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Because Florida State's not going to let anybody cover 17 going into Doak Campbell. They got a good defense. They started to wake up a little bit on offense. No. Leave it alone. Clemson minus anything. Mike, you mentioned that Clemson is playing Louisville next week and is a 37-point favorite or something obscene like that. Lay the points.
They are. Lay those points. Yep.
Get in on it now before it goes up, I think.
Lay them because Louisville gave up a lot of points to Wake, and we'll get into that momentarily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Clemson 59, Florida State 10. Let's move on, Mike. Friday night, Boston College, the Dudes 27, Miami 14. This game was a little higher scoring in the first half. It was 17-14 at halftime, and then Boston College just put down the clamps in the second half. They had some good plays in this game, some trickeration that was kind of fun. A.J. Dillon, 32 carries, 149 yards, and a touchdown. Boston College straight up outplayed Miami in this game. And if you look at it, Mike, first of all, there was some quarterback controversy in this, we'll say. Malik Rozier gets the start. He looks not great. N'Kosi Perry does not come on the field. There's some rumors about him maybe being suspended or something like that. But Mike, if you take a step back and you look, Miami at the going into Thanksgiving weekend of last year, they were 10-0. The time since, they're 5-6.
Yep.
That's not great.
Yeah, most of the fan base wishes that Mark Richt was suspended.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at, Joey.
That is kind of where we're at.
Mark Richt and his inability to pick quarterbacks seems like a fireable offense, Joey.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I'm at with this. I'm not sure Mark Richt should be the coach at Miami anymore. And that might seem absurd. That might be a hot take. Don't think it's a hot take, Joey. They were just okay in year one. Last year, I get that they won 10 games and went to an Orange Bowl. They lucked out of those 10 wins. They probably lucked themselves into at least 3 or 4 of them. You could have easily seen them be 8-4 last year, conservatively speaking. They lose to Pittsburgh the day after Thanksgiving last year. They get blown out of the ACC championship game, and they get blown out of the Orange Bowl. By the way, bona fide home game, because they were playing in the Orange Bowl in Miami, where they play all their home games. Since then, it hasn't been good. Like you mentioned, when they started 10-0, they have 5 wins since then and 6 losses. They have looked absolutely anemic on offense this year. I get that they lost Amon Richards, but you still haven't figured out how to play quarterback, and that is the issue. And it's not like they don't have options. They have a couple highly touted recruits sitting on the sidelines, not getting any playing time, yet Malik Rozier continues to get the nod under center. I don't understand it. Many members of their fan base do not understand it. And when you ask Mark Richt about it, he says, oh, Malik deserves to start. Joey, one question for you. Why? Based on what?
And that question is?
Why does he get to start? Why is he deserving to start? Why is he the guy? Like,
Mike, because he's the senior. He's the senior. He's experienced. He's Mark Richt's guy.
That's why. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta have faith in him. You gotta trust him, right?
Oh man, this is very bad. Real quick on the Boston College side of the coin, AJ Dillon, welcome back.
Yeah, he looked good.
Looked real good. Weeks. Looked healthy.
Mm-hmm. He did. Yeah, he looked really good. I thought Anthony Brown, all things told, looked pretty good. His numbers didn't look particularly great, but I mean, he made some throws, and Boston College came out in the first half of this game throwing the ball. I was getting really nervous. I had the under 50.5 as my pick of the week, and I ended up actually, getting some action in on it at like 49.5. And man, I thought this was going to go past that number, and it did not after the second half. But Anthony Brown throwing the ball down the field, and I mean, this Boston College offense looked pretty good, all things told. I'm starting to question, I guess, how good Miami's defense is to some degree.
Sam.
I mean, I don't know. Miami, what is Miami doing right now? Like, this is a team that should be pretty clearly head and shoulders above the rest of the division. They've now lost 2 straight conference games to Virginia and Boston College, both on the road. I mean, this is not the Miami team I was signing up for, Mike. This is not. I don't know what's going on there. You might be right. It might be time for a change, which is a bizarre thing to say. Because, again, we mentioned this before we came on here. Barely a year ago, maybe not even quite a year ago, you look at the Miami fan base, we're having a lot of conversations about the U being back. And, again, they were 10-0, and they were rolling, playing with swagger, and they got the turnover chain and blah, 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 blah. And now, like a year later, if even that, they're almost ready to see a change. I mean, and that is bizarrely fast. Like, I kind of see what happened to some degree, but if nothing else, maybe you got to realize when that team last year was a little bit lucky in a lot of ways. And now you're kind of seeing some of that luck regress to the mean and kind of see this team for what it is at this point.
Yep, and they were just kind of average in year 1, but again, you give them a pass. Year 2, lucked their way into some wins and then got exposed late in the year. And year 3, they, like you said, the luck kind of regresses back to the mean, and they look like a 7 or 8 win football team, which is not what Miami signed up for. Miami had that with Al Golden, right? So I get that recruiting has come back a little bit, and Al Golden was a decent recruiter and had some decent recruiting classes, and Mark Richt is recruiting relatively well at Miami, but the product on the field is not very good, and a lot of it has to do with the quarterback position, and it hasn't gotten any better. And Mark Richt seems unwilling to change that, right? He did momentarily for N'Kosi Perry, but at the first sign of trouble, he pulled him. And now you're sitting here wondering why 12 is once again the guy. And it's a different situation than somewhere like Virginia Tech, right? Like, we're talking about Fuente and how things have, kind of taken a turn this year, but he lost his entire defense from last year, right? Like, Miami didn't. And Miami returned most of their production on both sides of the ball, yet they look a lot worse than they did last year. And I get you lost Amon Richards, but like, the core of your team remains the same on both sides of football. And they have really, really regressed with essentially the same talent, which is a completely different situation. And Mark Richt's unwillingness to switch quarterbacks is really, really bizarre. and something you have to look at least from an outsider's perspective, and wonder, like, if he's really, really dead set on playing a guy who is a 55% passer, like, and these are the decisions he's going to make. Like, what if he's under the gun with an 11-0, 12-0 Miami team playing in a college football playoff? Like, it makes you wonder if he's going to make the right decisions when it matters most.
You want another fun thought here, Mike? Miami this year playing away from home against Power 5 competition. 0-3, have not yet scored 20 points in a game. They have 2 of those games remaining. Do you know who they're against?
Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech, Joey.
They sure are. Here in a couple of weeks, they're on the road back-to-back weeks at Georgia Tech, at Virginia Tech. Whew. We're going to come back to the situation in the ACC Coastal, but here's last question before we move on. Boston College, Miami. Is one of these teams the second best team in the ACC?
One of them is, and it's not who you think it is.
It's not Miami.
It's not Miami. It's not Miami.
I will absolutely hear arguments that it is not Boston College either.
Right.
I'll leave that there. I'll leave that there.
Completely open to whoever you want to be the second best team. I saw a tweet today that said the second best team in the ACC was Clemson's backups, and I'm like, okay, I'm cool with that too.
Yep.
No reason to think otherwise at this point. It's been crazy so far. Everything's upside down.
Yeah, shout out Ben Tankersley over at From the Rumble Seat on that one. That was a good call. You're absolutely right. Boston College 27, Miami 14. Let's move on. Syracuse 51, number 22, NC State 41. And Mike, if you are looking for a smut film on getting your secondary burned and downfield passing, boy, do I have a game for you.
Oh, yes, you do.
Goodness gracious. You do. These two teams combined for like 1,100 yards of offense, of which I think over 950 passing yards. Ryan Finley goes for 473. Eric Dungey goes for 411 through the air. This game was just a back-and-forth shootout. This looks like a Big 12 game, Mike, being played in the Carrier Dome, but there were just downfield passes left and right, secondaries getting burned. Ultimately, Syracuse pulls out the win late. But, I mean, this was an offensive explosion of a game. Seems like Syracuse might not be dead yet.
Syracuse isn't dead. In fact, now they're in the top 25. You and I were saying they were trending in the wrong direction. We thought they were.
I mean, they were.
Right, for a minute. Yeah. By the way, Eric Dungey, still the starter, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Still the starter. And pretty remarkable that he turned this around in 1 week after looking relatively incompetent a week ago to now going out and essentially blowing NC State off the field by himself. Welcome back, Eric Dungey.
My goodness.
glad you're still here. That was something. Syracuse's offense, wow. I mean, we're getting to the point now with Dino Babers where I'm like, okay, well, maybe you don't have it all together. And then a week later, I'm like, oh man, well, your offense is still good at least. Mm-hmm. And hey, the defense didn't look too terrible. I mean, Ryan Finley had his way, threw all over him, but hey, they came up with a big interception late, ended up being the difference in the ball game, and they were opportunistic on Saturday at the very least, which, I mean, if you're going to be a bad defense, at least be opportunistic and make some plays, at least make it exciting, right? And if you have an offense that scores 40 to 50 points a game, Joey, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And that's what we have with Syracuse. Once again, even though we thought it was trending one direction, it's actually trending the other, and Syracuse is back in the top 25. Not sure how long it'll stay that way, but hey, enjoy it while you have it, Orange fans, because it's been a while, and at the very least, you're still an exciting football program.
This game was bizarre, Mike. These two teams combined for 152 offensive plays in this game, right? Which pace-wise is not blowing the doors off anybody, right? That's pretty, it's quick, but it's not like, again, Big 12, Baylor, Oregon quick, right? Every time these two teams snap the ball, they average 7.25 yards per play. Over the course of a game, that is absurd. Absurd.
Yeah, I mean, they're basically making their way 3/4 of the way to a first down every single snap, which,
yeah,
I mean, I hope you like offense because we had a lot of it. Boy, did we have a game for you.
Only one turnover, and that was the one that really ended the game. Ryan Finley under duress. They're down 3 late, trying to make a comeback, and Ryan Finley under pressure and kind of flips the ball out and gets picked off. Shortly thereafter, Syracuse turns that into a touchdown, and the game was over. Yeah, just a super fun and bizarre game here in the Carrier Dome, Mike. I don't know what we expected. Syracuse 51, NC State 41. And like you said, Syracuse now ranked, NC State now unranked after 2 straight losses here. And Mike, I ask you, are either of these 2 teams the second best team in the ACC?
Not NC State.
Yeah, probably not. 2 weeks ago, we probably would have said they would be.
I was gonna say it's pretty funny too, because now we're getting to the point where we're like Boston College notwithstanding, by the way, because they had a chance to be a second best team in the ACC coming into the year, but we're coming to a point in the year where we're like, oh man, there was one team who we thought could be like pretty good that's actually not good, and there's one team who we didn't think would be very good that actually is good, and that's where we're at in both divisions.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. Let's move on. Virginia 31, North Carolina 21. North Carolina damn near had the cover, Mike, and then they didn't.
And then they didn't, and that's one of my few losses on Saturday in the old wallets. North Carolina, they tried real hard, but they could not defend Bryce Perkins, Joey.
No, they could not. Bryce Perkins, 18 of 27 for 217, 3 touchdowns and a pick. Also 21 carries for 112 yards on the ground and a touchdown.
There's a dual threat quarterback, Joey.
Yeah, that's what they call him. Yeah, Virginia just keeps getting it done, and it's a little bit of like a So there are folks out there, shout out Solid Verbal, that refer to like Alabama as the crock pot. Virginia's like a low-powered crock pot. Like
they are.
They kind of just slowly move their way through a game. They're going to come up with about 30 points in a lot of these games. They're going to hold you down, and it's just slowly going to build this lead. But I don't know if they could really like fully cook like a brisket or like a big roast. Like it's got to be like some chicken breasts or something like that that's a lot like smaller to actually function. I don't think Virginia could do this to some particularly good teams. Don't forget, Mike, this is a team that lost by 2 touchdowns to NC State and lost to Indiana earlier this year. Right. They have since, they've been winning these games, but all right, let's play this game. Who is Virginia's best win? Richmond, Ohio, Louisville, Miami, at Duke, UNC.
I believe it's Miami. I believe it's Miami.
Yeah, I guess.
Could be Duke. I mean, if you're still into that sort of thing, I'm not. But
yeah,
so if that's for you, that's cool. I don't know. Not a lot of quality wins in there. You were talking about how they might not be able to do this against like good teams. Lucky for them, they don't play many good teams left.
That was my next thought, was like you could basically do that exercise with any team in the ACC Coastal and you're probably getting the same results at this point. Like
right.
Basically none of them are any good, so none of them really have like a reputable win is what it is, I guess.
Yep. Fair enough.
North Carolina, again, good effort, but not quite enough. And you just wonder. I'm really curious to see if Larry Fedora keeps his job after this year. It feels like this is going in one direction and one direction only.
Me too, but it feels like they're still playing hard for him, which is another thing. Like they're playing hard week to week. They're not getting blown out of games. Granted, they're not playing very many good teams right now, but they're not getting blown out of the stadium. And they seem to be trying really hard. And like Nathan Elliott's not great, but like he made some plays in the passing game against Virginia. Like I don't know. Like I don't think Fedora keeps his job, for the record. Like, I don't think he does. I just think his time's run out. And I think he's a fine coach. I think he's just his time's run its course at North Carolina. And I think they'll both be ready for a change, right? With that being said, like the players are still playing hard for him. I don't think it's a situation where they've completely quit on him like Louisville has quit on Bobby Petrino, which 2 completely different situations with 2 coaches who I believe will not have a job at the end of the year.
Yeah. I think that's fair. By the way, Mike, North Carolina hosts Georgia Tech next week. North Carolina is 100% going to win that game. 100%.
Yeah, 100%. And I'll bet the house on it too, because that's just the way things have gone this year, and that's how Georgia Tech's gone this year. And North Carolina is like really due for a win, and they've been in a lot of pretty tight games recently. So I'm waiting for that as well.
Yeah, they've been playing a lot of games on the road, too. 3 of their last 4 on the road. The home game was a damn near win against Virginia Tech a few weeks ago. But, yeah, it's going to happen. Just be ready for that. Virginia 31, North Carolina 21. Let's talk about Pittsburgh 54, Duke 45. Speaking of shootouts, my goodness gracious.
I told you so.
What was this game? You want to watch schmutt films about downfield passing and your secondary getting beat. That was the NC State-Syracuse game. This game was a smut film about poor angles and tackling because everything turned into a long play in this game. Not because guys were just out of position, but because they played everything really poorly and nobody can tackle from either of these two defenses in this game. I don't know what the hell happened here.
Just like in the Virginia Tech-Georgia Tech game, Joey, I hope you took the over.
Yeah, no kidding. 99 total points.
Yeah. I don't know what the over-under is. I can't remember, but I guarantee you it was not 98.5. So
probably less than that, yeah.
Yes, probably less than that, so I hope you took the over.
You weren't really sweating this one.
Yeah, we're not sweating this one, nor were you sweating the Virginia Tech-Georgia Tech game that went over with like 8 minutes to go in the third quarter. This was really, really, really entertaining. And entertaining from the standpoint of neither defense could tackle, and each offense just found new and exciting ways to score every time they had the ball. So I hope you love offense, and I hope you love a really bad defense, because boy, oh boy, Joey, like we said earlier, do we have a game for you. Hey, also, I picked Pitt to win this game. So, hey, told you so. But I didn't know why. I just said, hey, I don't trust Duke. Still don't trust Duke, by the way. They suck. Pitt also sucks. Pitt is a bad football team. They somehow score 54 points. I don't know.
Pitt's a bad football team. It's 4-4, and I have not yet made peace with that fact.
I know. Like, they're less bad than everybody else. And, like, Virginia is really less bad than everybody else. And that's the Coastal right now.
Pitt has a couple of really stupid wins, by the way. You could basically call this kind of a stupid win. You could call Syracuse a stupid win. You could call Georgia Tech a stupid win. Like, this Pitt team, their record is way better than they should be in a lot of ways. It's really starting to bother me, frankly.
Yep. It's frustrating because they're not very good, and they're still finding ways to win. And Duke, who everybody thought was good, is, they continue to find ways to lose. So that's where we're at. That is where we are at.
Kenny Pickett, I'm trying to think of – I had a great comparison from him as I was thinking about this morning, but I can't remember what it was. But Kenny Pickett is a poor man's version of some quarterback, and I'll think about who it is, and I'll let you know if I come up with it. But it's like in a lot of ways his value is he's going to hit some deep balls, and he's going to run around, and he's kind of athletic, but he's not like a particularly accurate or efficient passer, and you can't really build an offense around him, it feels like. So I got to think about what this comparison is. In some ways, he should be like an option type of quarterback, maybe.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm going to think about that. Let's keep moving.
Definitely can't throw. So that's where we're at.
I mean, he's not really threatening anybody with his arm, at least. But again, when you can throw a little hitch route and your receiver can break a tackle, and then the defense takes horrible angles, next thing you know, he's gone. Yeah, it looks great that you had a 50 passing yards on that one play, but you threw the ball behind the line of scrimmage. You're getting credit where credit is not due. So there's that. Anyways, Pitt 54, Duke 45, speaking of shootouts. And Mike, speaking of shootouts, Wake Forest 56, Louisville 35. The Cardinals have 100% quit on Bobby Petrino and Brian Van Gorder. Wake Forest made an absolute mess of Louisville in this game. The defense doesn't care. The offense is kind of in it for themselves. There's all sorts of crazy tweets going around about players. A, there's all the legal stuff, but B, players complaining about the fans and some stuff. Louisville is a certified tire fire right now. I'm like,
yeah, that's about all I have from this game. Is that like Wake Forest has had a lot of trouble scoring the last few weeks and did not have any trouble on Saturday because, good Lord, you and I could score on a Brian Van Gorder defense at this point. Louisville has absolutely quit on Bobby Petrino, and Wake Forest, what do you know? They're still playing hard for Dave Clawson, just like you and I predicted. We told you so. That's all I'll say. Well, we told you so. Don't have a lot to add from this game. I didn't watch a lot of this either. I did have an eye on it. I did not. I'm not even going to pretend like I watched a lot of this game. It doesn't seem like I missed a whole lot.
I watched a good bit of the first half having a financial interest in it. And let's just say that the financial interest paid off.
Yes.
By the way, Mike, I'm going to throw out there, best thing about this game, Matt Colburn. 20 carries, 243 yards, and 3 touchdowns at Papa John's Cardinal Stadium. And that's a significant fact, Mike.
Yes,
because once upon a time, once upon a time, Matt Colburn was committed to Louisville, and then the coaching staff pulled his scholarship shortly before signing day. So for him to come back to Cardinal Stadium and absolutely just run rampant on Louisville had to feel good for him.
Yeah.
The other thought that I had, Mike, while watching this game is we do not talk enough on this podcast about Greg Dortch. We really do not.
We don't, and we really need to, and we need to do a whole heck of a lot better job than we do.
Mm-hmm. He is a hell of a ball player. He's a lot of fun to watch. So recommend going to watch Greg Dortch to get the chance. Mike, that's all we got. You want to hand out a couple of awards?
We need to.
The Go ACC Moment of the Week happened Friday night, and it was a good one. It held up through the rest of the weekend. So Miami got the ball kind of on their own end of the field, and Malik Rozier, as he's known to do, winds up to pass. And then that pass gets tipped, and then it gets tipped again, and then it gets tipped again, and tipped again, and tipped again. And before you know it, 6 different players have touched the ball before Boston College comes down with the interception. That is a hell of a tip drill, Mike. Did you see that play when it happened?
I did. I saw the play when it happened. It was more of an adventure than it is usually for a Malik Rozier pass.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's saying something. That's not a low bar to clear.
It's definitely not a low bar to clear, but hey, found a way. Hey, BC comes away with a turnover, but I mean, seeing that on paper in a drive chart is a lot different than seeing it play out in real time because that was an unbelievable play in that football game.
Absolutely right. And that was, again, a lot of things about that, a weird game.
Yeah.
Mike, do you want to hand out the Brian Van Gorder Memorial You Tried Award to the Hokie defense?
I think I should. Going to give the Brian Van Gorder You Tried Award to Virginia Tech defense, giving up well clear of 460 yards rushing. Gave up 0 passing yards. Hey, so that really plays well for your
bright spot.
That's good for your defensive statistics against the pass. Not so much against the run, though, Joey. And Brian Van Gorder You Tried Award goes to Bud Foster as well for not making any adjustments, because that seems to be a thing now, too. Also goes to Justin Fuente for continuously finding a way to lose to teams that he should beat in his first 3 years in Blacksburg. By the way, he struggled against rushing offenses at Memphis as well. They found a way to lose to Navy with a pretty good Memphis team a couple years ago. So let's do this thing.
That's right. Let's do that hockey, Mike. Dumpster fire of the week, and I have a bad feeling that this is kind of an item from the Department of Redundancy Department. Just how about the entire Coastal Division? How about that? The Atlantic Coast Conference Coastal Division. You win the dumpster fire of the week because, goodness gracious, I don't think there's a single particularly good team in this whole division.
Yep, I completely agree. Coastal is an absolute tire fire, dumpster fire, however you want to characterize it for purposes of this award. It's a dumpster fire, Joey, and I'm not sure who the best team in the Coastal is. Right now, it's Virginia. I can't believe it, but it is. It's Virginia right now, at least in the standings, and we'll see how that holds up here over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I'm going to look up, give me just a second, I'm going to look up the updated S&P Plus rankings from Bill Connolly. Virginia currently leading the Coastal Division at number 48 overall in the S&P Plus rankings. Yep. Barely a top 50 team, and they have the lead in the Coastal Division. What does that tell you?
Well, Joey, we've talked about this a little bit, but let's play this fun game called, hey, what is Clemson going to be favored by in the ACC championship game? We don't even have to talk about opponent. Let's just say, what are they going to be favored by?
Do you want to play this like over-under style? We could.
Let's do this. Let's do over-under 22.5.
I'm going to go over. I was thinking 24. So I'm going to take the 1.5 there.
and that's where we're at. So
and I would bet Clemson to cover that.
I would too. Clemson minus anything. They are War Machine Clemson, which is bad news for everybody in the ACC.
Clemson minus anything is a hard principle at this point. I don't care how sick to your stomach you're going to be laying 37 points next week against Louisville. Just do it. Louisville doesn't want any part of that game, Mike. None.
No, it could be 35-0 at the half.
Yeah.
And there's nothing I've seen out of the Louisville offense to suggest they'll even backdoor cover.
Have you seen enough out of Chase Bryce and the second string Clemson offense to think they're going to keep scoring?
I mean, Florida State scored 10 against Clemson, and the last touchdown came with like no time left. So that's, yeah. I mean, Florida State can't score. Louisville certainly can't score.
Man, I'm just sitting here thinking like, yeah, Florida State needed kind of a fluke occurrence to beat Louisville about a month ago. But I'm thinking this is going to be worse than 59-10, and this is a home game for Clemson too. So goodness.
And to answer your question that you just posed a minute or two ago, Chase Bryce can definitely put points still on the board. I mean, he did it yesterday. They can just pour it on. That's their thing.
100%. Mike, that's all I got. We finished the week at 3-4 on our picks. Each of us do. There were a couple of different ones that you and I had different sides of that either one of us, we kind of split those. I got my pick of the week right at Miami Boston College under 50.5. Yours was NC State minus 2.5. That did not hit. And so on the year, I'm 32-31-1. You are 31-32-1. And our picks of the week are both 4-5 on the year. So it's been a great year trying to diagnose what the hell is going on in the ACC.
Yep. And it'll continue that way for the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. Well, certainly week 10 can't be any less confusing, right?
Absolutely not. Looking forward to previewing it with you, Joey.
Yeah, we're going to do that. We're going to come back and preview week 10 because, again, things can't get any weirder than they've already gotten. Famous last words. In the meantime, you guys can find us on Twitter. I'm at FTRS Joey. He is at Mike McDaniel CFB, and together we're at BC Podcast ACC. Y'all can send us an email with your questions, comments, concerns to the longest email address known to man, basketballconferencepodcast@gmail.com.
Nailed it.
Thank you. I'm still waiting on the email from Andrew Parker or anybody else to just keep the lights on an email account. They're about to shut us down, so we need to have that. So please hit us up if you got something.
Yep.
Mike, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, the Overcast app, wherever fine podcasts are sold for free. And Mike, tell them where they can find us on the social medias.
Facebook.com/basketballconference. Rate, review, find all of our podcasts there. Rate and review us on iTunes, Google Play, all those places that you just mentioned, Joey.
Absolutely. Please do that. We would very much appreciate it, and we appreciate those who have. Please share us with your friends. We know you've got some friends out there that like Georgia Tech football or Virginia Tech football or Syracuse football or NC State football or Duke football. Not that one.
Probably not Duke.
But Miami football or any of that. So please share us with those folks so that we can spread the love and grow the basketball conference family here. Mike, that's all I got. You got anything else?
I don't. Pray for the Coastal.
Pray for the Coastal. Twitter thoughts and prayers to the ACC Coastal Division.
Yep.
Goodness. Yeah, we're going to come back and preview for week 10. We got one game Friday night. Other than that, all of it's on Saturday. So we'll be here later this week talking about those games. Mike, you want to come back and preview this when the time comes?
I do, man.
All right. Well, until then, for Mr. Mike McDaniel, I am Joey Weaver. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll talk to you again soon. And until next time, go ACC.